Hello everyone, Zellerant here, and today we're going to be taking a look at another Animus within Etheria Restart. Now this is one that everyone's going to have access to out of the Light and Dark banner that everyone can effectively guarantee at the launch of the game, and that is going to be Massiah. The reason for that is he has his own banner here. Now this one is allowed to use crystals. The normal Light and Dark permanent banner, you cannot use crystals, you can only use the Apex prototypes. But on this banner for Massiah, you can use crystals. It's just triple the cost of a normal banner like Freya's. So you're going to cost 300 crystals per pull, which means if you go all the way to his hard pity, it is going to be quite expensive on your pulls. And so we need to take a look at him, kind of see if he's somebody that you really want to get, because he will be expensive if you want to target him in that way. But you can also get him on the normal permanent banner if you just so happen to get the light or dark unit and it ends up being him, but it is very low odds for that to happen. Big thing with Massiah here is he's just an outright damage dealer. Like, he just straight up wants to do as much damage as possible, and that's his main focus. So when we take a look at his basic attack here, Defiance Cross, this is where you're going to see like his main debuff in his kit, although it's not a high chance, but he basically does 2 hits to an enemy with a 25% chance to apply Vulnerable for 2 turns. I think Vulnerable is really good. It's just like a lot of other gotchas, makes it where they take increased damage. So this is something where you can utilize it to get at least another debuff on a boss, so you can do more damage overall to them, not only with him but other units as well. And then when he defeats an enemy, he gains invincibility for 1 turns. If he already has invincibility, it refreshes it for 1 turns. Can only be triggered 1 time per turn, which, I mean, makes sense. You don't want, I mean, if you could do it multiple times a turn, you could keep stacking this infinitely. But the nice thing is, as long as he keeps killing, he stays invincible, which is really good if there is a boss that kind of has something that he can fight where it maybe has an appendage or something that he's constantly able to kill every turn, because if you're in those situations, he basically is invincible in that way. Then when we take a look at his second skill here, we have a single target damage, dual judgment. Massiah creates an energy copy of his sword, dual wielding it as he charges continuously, striking the target, dealing 3 hits of 100% damage to a single enemy. If the last hit also deals extra damage equivalent to 100% of the target's lost HP. The extra damage cannot exceed 350% of Massiah's attack. So you can already see he's going to want a lot of attack so that he can get that damage on that last hit really high there. But this one is a 3-turn cooldown hit, and this one is a very massive single target damage dealing attack. So really good there. No real utility in it. And that's one thing that I'll say I do not like about Massiah, is while he has a lot of capability to do a lot of damage, my favorite characters are always going to be people that have some form of utility within their kits. Now, he has Vulnerable, but it's not too crazy, and I do know it's on some other kits as well. But this is a very big, hard-hitting single target attack here. Then he does have an AoE within his kit here. This one is Divine Descent. Massiah unleashes accumulated energy to strengthen himself and impact enemies, then transforms the energy into a giant sword and strikes all enemies for 2 hits of 180% damage to all enemies. This attack ignores 70% of defense and passive and applies a 1-turn invincibility to himself. So another way of him getting that invincibility. This one's got a 3-turn cooldown as well. So this one is a really nice big AoE hit now. And he can ignore defense. So overall, really good, big damage dealing. But like I said, the biggest thing that he's really missing in his kit is he doesn't really have anything other than Vulnerable as like a utility for your team as a whole. So he is just your main damage dealer going in there, and he's going to want a team that can support him with their own support skills to make him where he can continuously do his damage. So let's just go ahead now and take a look at his sets you're going to want to use on him within the matrix here. Alright, when it comes to his sets, it's pretty straightforward in my opinion. It's going to be all-out attack. It's the main thing he's wanting is attack. When you're starting out with your early level gear, your Onslaught's going to be like the main one you're going to go for, because this is going to be on all of the shells and all of the modules that you can get. So just start stacking these on him to get his attack as high as you can. You may want to also look at Swift Rush and Swift Raid. Swift Rush being the early game one you can get just to kind of speed him up, but it is going to be a lot easier to get Onslaught for him because it's going to be built more into the other stuff that's better for him. Swift Raid is good as well. It's more of an end game one for that speed and attack. But then again, everything else within attack is just outright good for him. You have Onslaught, but then if you start looking at other big ones, Harvest to me is going to be good for PvP. Gives them a little bit of attack, but then if they're above 50% HP, can ignore an additional 30% defense. He's already got a 70% ignore in his kit, so that is going to work real nice with that. And this is why I say I think it's going to be better for PvP, because when it comes to fighting a boss, when they're above 50%, yeah, it'll help you speed them up to getting below 50. But then again, that's not. You basically lose all the effects there. But when it comes to PvP, man, if you can just hammer the other team real quick and get them on low health, the rest of your team may be able to finish them off. So I think Harvest may be a very good PvP one for him. You have Fury here, 10% attack when landing a crit. The damage will increase by 12%. I think this Fury can pair extremely well with the ones below here, especially like Fury Edge, because when it looks to the cost to actually acquire them, this one only takes 8. Fury Edge here is just a flat crit rate and crit damage, 6 points there, very easy one. Or if you're wanting to look at some other buffs here on getting crit as well, you have like Momentum that gives another crit rate plus 12% on it for 6. I would not go over the 6 on this one over this one, simply because 6 gets you crit rate and crit damage here, while 6 here only gets you the crit rate. But if you already got Fury Edge, you may move into Momentum. And then depending on team, I think Momentum's going to be very good dependent on the team you're pairing him with. You can have additional damage if you take it all the way to 12 based on how many debuffs or control effects are on the enemy. Very situational, but I think it is going to be very good on him if he is with a team that is putting all that stuff on the enemy. Then you have Keen Eye. You have that crit damage that it's giving, and then the first 3 instances of a damage dealt by Animuses during the turn increases 25, 15, and 55% respectively. So this one might be all right. I probably would just, if I wanted to go and building him towards an end game type build, I may go full crit and just ignore Onslaught altogether, and then go for Fury Edge with the 6 on both of these. So you get 24% crit rate, 38% crit damage, and then go over 8 points here to get where when he lands a crit, which you should now be doing pretty easily if you have good substats, get an additional attack damage plus 12%. And then if you have anything left over in that build, you may want to look at Swift Raid / Swift Rush to give yourself a little bit more speed and attack if you go with Swift Raid. But I think those are kind of his best sets there. And so let's just go ahead now and look at what his best shells are going to be. Now, like I've said in the other ones, you're going to move through these early ones fairly quickly. You're kind of using them as stepping stones to get all the way to the mythic ones. So just know you just want to get what you can with the best substats. I don't find the actual shell to be as important, but if you can get the right one with the right one that has the right sets on them, which a majority of them that have the stuff he wants are going to also have good skills, you're going to want to go with that. So the blue ones, you're going to jump right over them real quick. Just get whatever you can on him and they will work. Then when you get to unique, the big one that I really like is Tamamaho Doji. It has Onslaught and Harvest within it. Very nice on that. So you can easily start stacking Onslaught stacks there for his set. But then if you look at the actual skill it provides, before the owner takes action, increases their attack by 600 for 2 turns, and additionally increases crit rate by 10%, giving you some more of that crit rate, and then a lot of attack, everything that he loves, and then it does have the set bonuses you want. So this is the one I would target for him, but then again, substats may be something that overrides that. You'll kind of have to look there, but that's the one I would go over there. And then on here, I believe it was, is it this guy? Yeah, I believe Crossroads is going to be a very good one. This one has Life Leech built into it. So before they take action, increases attack by 900, so a lot of attack. And then have Life Leech, which then converts 10% of the damage dealt into HP. So a little bit of health to keep him alive there. Might be useful for bossing, just to give him a little bit back in terms there. And then if you look, I mean, you look at the what it provides here. Onslaught, Fury, and Harvest. Boom, right there. Really good on these sets. But I mean, there's some other ones that can, I think, work in here as well, depending on what you need. You have like the Twilight Knight. I think he does damage, a little bit of defense, not as needed, but this one doesn't really have any sets that he wants. So that'll be some of the things. Some of them may have skills that look good on them, like the ones with the turn meter and that. But none of the sets here, except maybe Swift Rush. You could probably get away with going for Swift Rush, but I don't really care about too much else here for him. But that's going to be kind of key there. I think every other one of his pretty bad for him because they're all more defensive in nature. So your only real epic one is going to be Crossroads. But that's not the big a deal because eventually you're going to want to move into your mythics. And your mythics are really going to start seeing you have a little bit more options. So the first one I want to take a look at here is going to be Count. So Count is before the owner takes action, increases attack by 1200, and then applies a 2-turn life leech shell to them. This is just like that epic one that we just looked at, except it's more attack, and it's 2 turns for the life leech versus 1. So you're going to have that available half the time. So this is a little bit more defensive natured. You're getting that attack, but then he can also slightly heal himself with it. Then when you look at the sets here, it has everything he wants on here. Now, it doesn't have Swift Rush, it has Swift Raid, but Swift Raid is good. Swift Raid is the one that gives attack and speed. So you might go from that direction if you're going to use this as your shell, get some Swift Raid. You have your crit rate, crit damage. You have your crit rate. You have your crit damage one. So you can always go with those being your main 3 sets when it comes to damage dealing. But you also still have Onslaught and Fury if you want to just go for some more attack. And that's pretty much that on that one. I think that one's overall really good. And then the other one we'll take a look at here is going to be Revelation. So this one is a damage boost. So with this skill, before the owner takes actions, enable each crit hit to dealt by the owner animist in this turn to deal an additional true damage, 12% of the target's max HP. Total damage dealt per hit cannot exceed 100% or 180% of self-attack. So effectively with bosses, this is going to be your limiting factor. But when it comes to PvP, I can see this one being very, very good. This one has a only 3-turn cooldown as well. And then when it comes to your sets on here, I mean, it has everything you want. It pretty much has all the attack ones plus Swift Raid. So all around, very good one on him as well. It's really going to be dependent, though, on your crit. Because crit is the kind of the key here. If you don't have a high crit, or you're maybe going for a more attack build with him, where he's a little bit lower in crit, but he's just doing that, this might be a bad one for him. So situational, but overall very good for him. Let's see. Another one I think that's overall good on just about everyone, but this one is going to be very tricky because the sets are really bad on it. But I do like this one as a defensive one in PvP, but the only thing I think you really can get here is Swift Rush. Everything else on here really doesn't fit them on the sets. So while I said this one is pretty good on just about everybody, Alicorn I probably would not put on him just because the Matrix is available. And that's kind of the key with some of these units. While the skill I think is overall great for PvP for just about anybody, there's really nothing useful on the sets here other than Swift Rush. I would kind of skip that one for here. Then Law of Silence, another big one with all of his sets he wants here, so that's pretty good. Now it does have, you don't have the speed ones here, so know that you're basically going for your damage dealing ones. So you have Fury Edge, Keen Eye. Oh, it does not have the crit rate one on here, so this one might be a little bit worse because it's got the crit rate, crit damage one, but then only crit damage. So you might want to get a little bit higher in the sub stats going this direction to make sure you get your crit high enough, since it doesn't have the 6-piece set for that. But it has all the other attacking ones, so quite fine. It's all going to be dependent on your sub stats to a certain extent. And then when you look at the skill of this one, at the start of battle, puts the owner animus in a 1-turn void state. And what void does is it increases effective resistance by 60%, cannot be selected as the main target of an enemy skill, and reduces the group damage taken by additional 50%. So this is a very defensive one. Could be very good for PvP. Afterward, every 4 turns, enters a 2-turn void state after and increases attack by 10%. So this is kind of your defensive option when it comes to him as well. And then I think there was one more. I think it was it White Fane here? Yeah, this one's got, this has, this is the pure, every single one of these are the ones that I mentioned in his sets. Onslaught, Harvest, Fury, Keen Eye, Momentum, and Fury Edge are all there, and then you have Swift Rush and Swift Raid. Every single one of these sets is good and can contribute to his, so this is going to be one that's going to make it where you have a lot of flexibility on his builds, because every time you farm a piece of this guy, you're going to get, you're not having to worry about one of his matrices being from a bad set. All the sets are good for him. Then it just becomes a puzzle of getting maximum, using your modules plus this to kind of get that maximum set. But this one's overall going to be great just for that alone. But then when you take a look at his skill here, The owner takes action, follows up on the main target, dealing 2 hits of 140% damage. On a crit hit, increases the owner's animus's crit damage by 6% up to 6 stacks. So this is going to be very good for your heavy crit builds. And like I was saying here, you have all of those for that. You have the crit rate one here. You have the one that has crit rate, crit damage, and then you have Keen Eye. So this one, these are probably the 3 I'd go for him on this one, just simply because you're going to want to build straight crit on this. But everything on him is overall very good there. So a very good shell for him there. I think those are the main ones. Everything else, when you kind of start looking at them, regardless of what the skills are, like I really like Alicorn overall. It's just, you just don't have the matrices available on that one to make him worthwhile. And I think everything else doesn't have his, everything else doesn't have like the matrices he wants. So you're not going to be able to take advantage of like anything else. So those are kind of the main ones he wants to use. So overall, pretty good character. The only thing that I really don't like about him and why he's not going to be a target for me on reroll. Well, one, he wouldn't be a target because he has his own banner. So if I really wanted him, I would just reroll for something else I want and then pull on his banner to get him. But I do not plan to pull on his banner because he will be quite costly in pulls. And I find that Freya will be much more valuable to me. And then when it comes to the light and dark units, I mean, I'm re-rolling for Lily and potentially Doki Doki, depending on if I get lucky with those two. Or if I get Heinrich with one of the others, I'll go with that. Massiah is definitely not one I want to target. Whichever one I don't get on my re-rolling, so say I get my Lily that I want, I'd rather save those tickets for like a Heinrich or Doki Doki versus a Massiah when they run on their own limited banners. But that's just me. He may be a character that you really like. I just prefer having a lot more utility built into the character, even if it's at the sacrifice of a little bit of damage, because I think that's going to be more valuable in PvP to have the utility over just being outright a big damage dealer. But we'll kind of have to see how it works out and how the meta shapes up once the game actually launches and people start getting to the max level and max gearing them out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. If you like my content, if you could like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.